Hello everyone, TLSG here, back again with another daily Marvel Snap video. So today's video is going to be structured a little bit differently than one of my normal videos. Today I'm going to be covering a few different decks that can help you get from collection log level 0 when you're first starting out, all the way up until collection log level 214 when you finish getting pull 1 cards and you start cracking into pull 2. So this is meant to help you during your first week or 2 weeks in the game while you kind of get your footing, to give you a few ideas to build around so that you can continue to progress and push your collection until you get those additional cards. Now, if you are new to the game, pools of cards are just set collection log ranges at which you can pull all of those set cards. And so pool 1 runs from collection log level 0 through 214. Pool 2 runs from 222, and then currently all of the rest of the cards are unlocked through pool 3 at 474 plus. And so first up, we have the starting deck. And so this is what your deck will likely look like as you're going through the tutorial, as you are unlocking and completing your starter missions. And so this deck list operates pretty simply. All you need to do is stack your power efficiently and push it into the optimal lanes. And so in this example, I was planning on pushing my power to the left, but then they dropped their Iron Man. I knew that there was no way that I could overcome that amount of power. And so then I shifted and dropped it in one of the other lanes because it was going to be more efficient and position me for a better chance to win in that scenario. Now, you won't be using this deck list long. It's very straightforward. It has a low energy curve. You try to position your cards in the most efficient way possible. And this should hold you over until you get your first recruit pass mission, which is build a new deck using Spectrum. Now, Spectrum's ability is on reveal, give your ongoing cards +2 power. And so if you are building a deck using Spectrum, whenever you first get this mission, you likely won't have a lot of ongoing cards, but you should have all of these cards, and these should give you enough of kind of a range to be able to complete that mission and continue progressing your card unlocks, your collection log level, and get you in a comfortable place so that you can get into your deeper cards. And so with this list, we are focusing around the ongoing ability cards. So the majority of our cards are going to have ongoing abilities. Not all of them will, because at this point we don't have enough cards to fill all of our card slots with ongoing cards, but as many as we can fit in there, we are going to. That way, whenever we drop Spectrum on the final turn, she will offer a much bigger power push overall. Now, this one should only last you a handful of games as well, and once you complete the recruit pass mission to win so many games with Spectrum, you complete your other ones along the way. That should segue into your next recruit pass mission, which is build a deck with Odin. And Odin has the on reveal. He will activate the on reveal abilities of the other cards at that location again. So with this card, we want to put as many really strong on reveal abilities into our deck as possible. That way, whenever we drop Odin at the very end of the game, it will re-trigger our on reveal abilities so that we can get as much upside out of them as possible. Now, this is an early on reveal style build. What you want to do is have a pretty low energy curve so that you can push power into the other lanes, but at the same time, you want to have some strong on reveal abilities so that if you re-trigger them with Odin, you can get a lot of upside and you can position yourself in a place to be able to win that game. And so for this one, we partner things like White Tiger, who has the on reveal add a 7 power Tiger to the other locations. If we dropped an Ironheart and a White Tiger in the same lane, and then we finish it off with Odin, that is going to re-trigger your Ironheart, which will buff up the rest of your cards, and then it will re-trigger your White Tiger as well. Now, as you continue progressing your collection, you might unlock additional on reveal cards that will be good to sub out for some of the less impactful ones in this list. And so Nightcrawler is just a low energy curve that you can kind of position where you might want him to, or where it might better serve you. We have Ant-Man, who's a low cost 1 power card, but of course he's an ongoing card. He's not an on reveal card. And so as you unlock additional on reveal cards, you can tweak this list a little bit, but this is still one of the earlier on lists. As you get some of those other abilities, this can be a very impactful archetype all the way through pull 3 and into the infinite ranks, depending on how you build it. But with this kind of basic build, you have a low energy curve. That way you can curve into your high cost cards at the very end of the game and push more power than what your opponent can. And you should be able to use this one to finish out your recruit pass mission, which will transition you into the real season pass so that you can start unlocking additional credits and cards and all kinds of different things. And so as you start getting deeper into pool 1, where you have a little bit more variety, you can start really fleshing out your Spectrum build. And as a reminder, Spectrum is the on reveal card that gives your ongoing cards +2 power. And so this deck list has a lot more ongoing cards than it did before. Now there are still a few that could be tweaked out. So we have our Nightcrawler, who's not an ongoing card. We have Wolfsbane, but those are just typically good tempo cards for the games that you don't draw into your Spectrum. You can drop them, you can maneuver them easily on the board, and then the rest of your cards are going to benefit from your ongoing ability. Now this one should serve you pretty well all the way through mid pool 1 until you get to the deck archetype that you really want to build. But for this one, you want to focus on kind of stacking your cards into 1 or 2 lanes. That way, whenever you do drop your Spectrum at the end of the game, you can push a large amount of power that can overwhelm and surprise your opponent into giving you 4 or 8 cubes, because they likely weren't expecting a huge power push on that last turn or the amount of reach that Spectrum can give. So if Spectrum is dropped on the board and she hits 4 ongoing cards, that is an 8 power push on top of your 5 that you already get for that base card. And so her power presence and the amount of power she can push on the board is very, very large. And then finally, around collection log level 100 or so, you should be able to build a Kazar Zoo deck. And so for any of our new players, Kazar has the ongoing ability your 1-cost cards have +1 power. Now, this deck list focuses on a lot of 1-cost cards. This does a lot of good things for us. This allows us to not be draw reliant, so we can play any of these cards in any order. If you have a really high energy, high power deck, if you draw those early, you can't really put them onto the board, and you lose a lot of early game value by not being able to play efficiently. And so this one, it doesn't matter really what order you draw your cards in, you're going to be able to play cards and use almost all of your energy each turn. So this deck list uses a couple of cards to kind of help elevate that power even further. So once you have Angela, she's going to be critical in this deck list. Whenever you play an additional card in this lane after dropping her, every single one you will get +2 power onto your Angela. So this can be used with a lot of your low cost cards. You can push a Nightcrawler in there and then move it out. She will eventually become around a 2-cost 7 power card, or even a 2-cost 9 power card if you do the Nightcrawler movement, which is really, really big for a 2-cost value card. And then we have Bishop. Bishop is going to continue to grow and gain power every single card that you drop after putting him onto the board. So if you put him on the board and then you end up dropping 3 or 4 of your 1-cost cards after that, he's going to continue to get stronger with each card that is played. We have Iron Man as a way to push a huge amount of power and kind of swing a location in your favor. This early on, while you're in pool 1, your opponent likely doesn't have counter cards such as Enchantress or Killmonger, so you don't really have to worry about your ongoing cards getting canceled or your 1-cost cards getting destroyed. And so Enchantress will disable all ongoing abilities at that location. Killmonger will destroy all 1-cost cards across the board. And so once you start getting into pool 2, where you start running into those counter cards, you will need to kind of shift your deck focus so that you can kind of protect your cards a little bit more. But in pool 1, that shouldn't be something that you really have to worry about too much. And so this one is going to be very, very powerful, very consistent to allow you to push and continue to gain wins, continue to gain cubes, and progress your collection further. And then similar to Kazar, this list also runs a Blue Marvel, which has the ongoing ability your other cards have +1 power. So this one is not restricted to 1-cost cards. This will impact all of your cards on the board. If you use this in conjunction or combined with your Kazar, all of a sudden you have +2 power to the largest majority of the cards on your board, and that can push a lot of power that your opponent might not be able to deal with. And especially with this list, you can push your power pretty equally into all 3 lanes, whereas something like your ongoing Spectrum deck, you have to push those into really 2 very specific locations. And so doing counterplays and kind of adjusting your power becomes a little bit more difficult with a deck that is as structured as that one. And then one more advantage that this deck list has over one of the other ones, even if you don't draw into your big build around piece. So if you don't draw into your Kazar, that is okay. You can still draw into your Blue Marvel, you can still draw into your other high power cards. Whereas with an Odin or a Spectrum list, if you don't draw into either of those big build around cards, your deck loses a lot of power potential. And so this one can operate even without that draw. So even if you have the worst possible draw, you can still get a lot of upside from this list. And so you should be able to easily run this deck all the way into pool 2. And then after that point, whenever you start running into Killmongers, that is where you will have to kind of shift your focus depending on what pool 2 cards you pull. And if you guys want me to cover a couple of builds for Pool 2, let me know. I can do that in a couple of weeks once the majority of players get to that position and find themselves pulling those Pool 2 cards. But I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did and it helped you start with the game, it helped you progress and kind of get your feet wet into the game and into the deck building process, let me know in the comment section down below. As always, this has been TLSG. Later, guys.